Hey guys, I'm Jessie, and today I'm going to share with you all of the books that I have DNF'd so far in 2021. A little while ago, I did a video on all the reasons that you should or could or might want to DNF a book. Well, I have really gotten into DNFing this year, and if I'm not enjoying myself, done, right? I don't have time. I'm too busy, I don't have the time. So, I wanted to kind of share with you all of the books that I personally have DNF'd so far this year. It's not a huge list, because I tend to pretty well know my reading taste, but every once in a while there's some books that I'm I really think I'm going to enjoy. I pick them up and they just are not for me. So I will DNF them. I don't actually have any physical copies of these because I have passed them all along to my nieces and used bookstores, so I'll insert pictures if I need to. And if these are some of your favorite books, that's fine. You do you. I'm glad you enjoy them. A lot of these I've passed on, and my niece has been like, oh my god, I loved it! And I'm like, that's great. Because I want to hand it off to somebody who loves it. We're not gonna bash these books. We're just gonna say what didn't work for me. I DNF'd it. Move along. So, if you're interested in all the books that I've DNF'd, keep on watching. So, I ended up DNFing quite a few books recently because I did this Fairy Loot, Illumicrate reading challenge where I was going to challenge myself to read all of my editions from book boxes, and I ended up DNFing quite a few of them. Some of them I loved, some of them I DNF'd, and passed them right along. So the first one is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. This is a YA Greek mythology Hunger Games book. And while it wasn't bad, I actually got decently far into this one. I just found myself not caring about any of the characters. I was kind of bored. And so I just decided to DNF it. It hit one of my things of I'd put it down and just be like, I don't care to pick it back up. And it's not that it was bad or poorly written. It just didn't grip me as a reader. So I just passed it along, DNF'd it. I really don't have anything negative to say about it other than I wasn't interested. The next one that I DNF'd was A Dark and Hollow Star. This was another Fairy Loot edition. I think it was Fairy Loot. It might have been an Illumicrate one. Either way, I did not make it very far into this book. I knew going into it that I probably was not going to love it, and that is because it is a fae story, and honestly, I have yet to find any fae fairy book that I enjoy. I just don't for some reason. It's not my thing. I tried because I had it. It was very sealy and unsealy and fae, and I'm just not that interested. They're not my magical genre that I love, so I decided to just close the book, hand it to my niece, tell her to enjoy. I also ended up DNFing These Violent Delights, which was a Illumicrate book as well, I think. Maybe an Owlcrate. It's one of those. They all kind of run together in my head. But I DNF'd These Violent Delights. Again, it's not because it was bad or poorly written. It just didn't interest me. There's really not much I can say about it other than I was kind of bored. And I knew there was going to be that romance there. And there's the madness and whatever. And I was just, That's how I felt about it, was meh. I could take it or leave it. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't oh my god, I'm into it. And at this point, I'm I just want to get books that I'm so into that I'm loving. So anything that's just meh, I'm just okay. We're going to pass this right on along. Probably the most controversial book on this list is Dune. I DNF'd Dune recently. I tried. I think I made it 100 pages, maybe a little more, and it was rough. I just was not feeling it. I wasn't enjoying myself. I didn't care about Paul or Jessica or any of the characters. I just didn't. And I didn't want to continue on reading it just because it's a classic, just because it's a sci-fi classic. I know so many people love this book, and that's fantastic. I'm just not one of those people. I wanted to be, but also sci-fi is not my main genre. I read some sci-fi, and I've been getting more and more into it, but it's not my main genre, so it's not super surprising that I DNF'd it, honestly, especially because it's like classic sci-fi, you know? Dune was not for me. Will I still watch the movie? Yes. I will still watch the movie because I'm interested. I'm interested to see what I think about it. But I will not probably go back and read the book or try to read the book again. I also DNF'd Nevernight. It only took me about 50 pages of reading J. Kristoff's writing to know that this is not for me. And it was not the footnotes. I actually kind of liked that. I thought the footnotes were really cool. But I just could not get into his writing style. It was flowery for no reason, for some reason. I don't know. It didn't work for me. And I know so many people love this book. But then I've also heard that people didn't like the last one. So that kind of made me hesitant as well. I just wasn't feeling it, y'all. I just wasn't. And I honestly think that like the characters could have been aged up. I think, what is her name? Mia? Just seemed a little like, she seemed like one of those characters where we talk about where it's like you're really like 25 but you're aged down. Like that's kind of what it felt like to me. So it just, again, passed it right on along. Then I also DNF'd Library of the Dead. This was actually a NetGalley arc. And I was really excited about it because it sounded so cool. But the way it was written in this like Scottish dialect just really bothered me. I just could not wrap my head around it. And that's fine. Like, I'm sure it's a great book. The story seemed really cool. But then it also seemed very middle grade-esque with adult themes. And then this, like, dialect writing that just did not work for me. I also DNF'd Malice, which was another arc. This is not John Gwynne Malice. This is the Malice Maleficent retelling Malice. And I'm really sad because, again, this is one I was really excited for because, like, Maleficent is, like, my favorite Disney villain. I just couldn't get into it. Like, it's a sapphic fairy tale retelling of Maleficent and Aurora, and I thought that was really cool in concept, but I just couldn't get into it. And then I did the thing that I do where I go and I, you know, Wikipedia all the spoilers, and the way it ends, like, made me be like, ugh. I definitely don't want to read it now. So we DNF. I also DNF Cemetery Boys. And I made it decently far in Cemetery Boys. And it wasn't bad. It just wasn't for me. It was well written. It was a good book. I just didn't get the enjoyment out of it as a 32-year-old woman that I feel like a high schooler would get, especially like a trans high schooler. Like, it wasn't written for me, and that's fine. And I understand the importance of that book, and that's why I passed it along to, I actually think I DNF'd that one and then gave my copy away to like the local, like used bookstore where they donate to the schools. So that has gone into better hands now as well. And I really hope that people read that and love it. It just wasn't for me. And the last book that I DNF'd, I feel really bad about because it's a self-published book, and that is Wildcat. I, again, didn't make it very far in this book. It was not the writing, it was just the story wasn't hitting for me. I'm very hit or miss when it comes to, like, anything, like, Norse. And this was very, like, Welsh, Norse, and it wasn't for me. There were some scenes in the beginning that I, like, left me scratching my head, and I just couldn't connect with the main character. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to DNF this. Move it right along. That one I read on Kindle Unlimited, so I didn't, like, unhaul it or give it away because it was on my Kindle. But I really know a lot of people really liked this. I think Leslie really liked it. At the Nerdy Narrative. So, you know, take my review with a grain of salt. If you think you're gonna like it, pick it up and read. These are just all books that did not work for me. If they worked for you, that's fantastic. And I am happy for you. All right, well, those are all the books that I have DNF'd this year so far. I don't think there will really be very many more DNFs because I have a very limited amount of time left to read, and that will be mainly taken up with sequels to books I already love. So, unless they're absolutely terrible, I don't see myself DNFing very much anymore. The rest of the year anyway. All right, well, let me know some of the books that you have DNF'd this year. I am definitely curious to see what you have DNF'd and why you have DNF'd it. Let me know. All right, thanks for hanging out with me. My name's Jessie. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.